I am with Katie Bates from HappySignals. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, Barclay.
And just be good to have a quick peruse around where we are at an industry perspective on how we join all the bits of the experience management together, because there's loads of things going on there. And you guys kind of blazed a bit of a trail over the last 10 years in terms of collecting data and establishing that process. But there's all sorts of other things that now have come to play. There's the whole XLA industry. There's the human-centered design, so which is kind of how we work together, basically. There's ITIL now. ITIL version 5 includes a whole book on experience management. And of course, there's DEX. There's all the technology-based telemetry and data gathering coming. So how do we pull it all together? What's happening from your perspective on that?
So I think let's go back, I suppose, like you said, we've been here now 12 years. And I think one of those things that we really focused on in the early days was to try and get the XLA journey established in the market. So I think we did an awful lot of an awareness. And it's still probably the number one piece of content that's down road is around XLAs. So which is great, which is fantastic. As you say, though, there are a lot other organisations that are coming into fruition as well. So we were talking about framework. So you said ITIL 5 now gives experience, but you've also got things like the X&M framework from likes of the XLA Institute that are having standardisation of experience management and how it's delivered. And then you've also got Gartner that also talk about workplace assessments and therefore that comes into play as well.
And our friends in SDI also have, and so on.
Absolutely,
and so on,
absolutely. And there are so many, right? The good news is it really is relevant, and organisations are on the journey. But I'm going to caveat that to say they are all over different places on the journey. We've got some of our customers who have been with us for 4 or 6 years, and even last week we had our iFixIM Summit. We had our customers together, and we had 4 customers around, different customers on the table. They've been customers for 4 years, each of them, but even then they're on very different journeys. Some don't even have an XMO. Some of them have got established XMO with about 20 or 30 people in it. Some have got 2 or 3 people running it. So I think we're still early on that maturity curve of really embedding it in a framework way in every organisation. So I think, we've still got a long way to go to get there.
I mean, and you said XMO, you mean Experience Management Office. Yes. I suppose the challenge then is because all of those areas are sort of saying, I suppose nobody says we are the definitive version of this. Could argue that in some cases, but it's how as a punter out there, if I'm, I think I want to do experience management. What does that mean? What do I have to buy lots of expensive text tools and data gathering tools and data analysis and they're all monitoring and where do we start? I mean, how do we get in? What's the best way in? I think was my question.
Just where you're talking to me, Barclay, because I'm always going to say that if you're doing any form of experience management, I think whatever framework you're talking about, sentiment is absolutely critical. But the sentiment can be gathered in many different ways.
Yeah.
So as you know, you can do your interviews, you can do your CSAT, you can do just randomized questions, however you want to do it. But what I think is important is getting something that can take you on a journey. So we've got an awful lot of, we've got some things going out at the moment. The CSAT on alone isn't enough. A number is not going to cut the mustard for experience management. It's just a number. You've got to be able to have intelligence. So underneath, there's underpinning to be able to say, okay, well, this is what the data's telling me, but how can I make improvements? If you're not looking to improve, as you know, why measure in the first place? So I think it is also the consolidation of the DEX tools that you talk about, and they're bringing in the technical data, bringing in the operational data, and having a look at it holistically in order to make the better decisions, experience decisions across an organisation. So I think the starting point is you got to start somewhere, and I would always say you need to start with sentiment, and I think in the framework say that. But you just got to make sure the sentiment can take you on a journey, and you've got to make sure that it is a journey. And when we look at the maturity, It can be 2 years, it can be 3 years, it can be 4 years. Setting the right expectations up front. What do you want to get in that first 12 months? Get to that point, then move to the next level, rather than thinking you can boil the ocean on your back.
Do you think that particularly because, I mean, one thing you talked about surveys and CSAT, there's quite a lot of places I go to, they've got a kind of survey fatigue. They don't want to have any more surveys. Whether that's exactly what happens or not. But I kind of get that. And do you think that some of the tools that have come out in terms of automated sentiment analysis, and certainly the DEX tool, do you think that's really made a difference to move it on a bit quickly? Or do you think you have to just go and sit down and talk or listen to them?
I think it's moved the market on, and it's moved awareness on, absolutely. But realistically, I think experience is a human thing, right? And I don't think you can get away from the fact you need to ask people how they feel. You know, if you look at TripAdvisor, taking it out of IT for a second, we look at TripAdvisor. I think everybody I know, if we go to another country and you say, I want to find a restaurant, the place they go to is somewhere where somebody's filled out a form to give their feelings and opinions about it. So I don't think, as humans, I don't think we're reluctant to do it, as long as there's something in it for that person.
Yeah.
And that's the piece for me, is to say that's what's got to improve, is that 360 degree, I'm going to give you some feedback and I'm going to give you some insights because I know you're going to do something with it and make my job easier. And I think if we can get that behavior change switched, I don't think anybody will have any challenges with answering either.
And it's not just feedback about what the provider does from their perspective, it's from the personally or the customer's perspective.
Yeah, and I think sometimes if you don't take that human elements, then you miss out a massive chunk. So we have some customers that come to us that have had, you know, the operational and the technical data for many years, for many of the different providers, but they still got a watermelon effect because their people are still saying, I'm not happy, but they've got the best devices that you know, the organizations can provide. All they haven't considered is actually the device, you know, it might not be suitable because the commuter is on a plane for 8 hours and it's too heavy, it's giving them backache, so therefore their experiences aren't good.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's really important that you have to still get that human element.
That's all right. Okay, I'm just sort of moving on then from a HappySignals perspective. You've got your you are working with Xthink, which is I mean, what is that? What is the reality of that in terms of what's on offer or how you bring those different approaches together?
So you've known us ever since we were, you know, born effectively.
On
I
HappySignals.
don't know if I mean when I was born, but HappySignals, since HappySignals was born. But ultimately, we've always captured the operational data alongside the experience data. The piece that was missing for us is that technical data. So so back to the devices. If you're talking about, you know, a laptop refresh program, understanding actually what's the device, what's the reliability. So when we're talking about Nexi, we bring in the reliability score, the performance score, the actual OS of the device. So we bring in those critical data plays that when you merge that then with the experience data, you can increase the longevity of a device, not just because of the performance of it, but also because of the experience of it.
Yeah.
So if I can, you know, if I don't have an experience issue with my device, then can we go 5 years instead of the 4? Therefore, saving time, saving money. So that's giving the IT an additional layer that they didn't have before that was heat and separated.
Okay. And also you've got an AI sort of knowledge creation part. How is that helping your clients out there? What sort of things is that doing for you?
So we launched Ask last week. Very, very exciting times. And so far the feedback has been phenomenal. So effectively, one of the challenges I think you have when you've got so much data is where do I start? What do I do? And actually, whether or not you're talking to service delivery manager or a CIO or a business unit head, those questions and things that you want to get out of experience data can be very digital. So the beauty of Ask is now it's containerized within HappySignals, so it doesn't go external, but it looks specifically around the data and helps you understand and make recommendations as to what you should be doing. So for example, back to the refresh program, you could just ask it, I've got $1 million or £1 million worth refresh on devices. which areas should I be considering, or which devices should I consider as a primary focus to refresh when taking into account the experience, the lost time, and also the technical metrics, and even premium or cost. So by asking one simple question, it can come up with an awful lot of great recommendations, and then you can say, create an action plan for me for the next 30, 60, 90 days, or create an email I can send to my CIO for budget.
So it's a super kind of practical knowledge guidance, guide you through. That sounds good. What's the next? What do you see as the next stage of industry evolution of experience management? That's what we'll be doing in 2 or 3 years' time that we're not doing now.
Do you know what? That's a real tough one, because I actually thought we would have moved faster in the experience space that we have. So I think even Gartman predicted things would have moved on, and they hadn't, and they will get slower. We're also in a bit of an economic crisis right now, so whether or not that has an impact on timelines. But ultimately, I think experience, it has to become embedded everywhere. You have to, we talk about XLAs, whether or not they will be formally known as XLAs in organizations, or whether or not we just an experience metric, that it becomes a critical metric. Particularly with the adoption of AI. I think there's so much money that's gone into AI and utilising it, but is the adoption right? Are people wanting to use it? Is it good? Is it actually producing efficiencies? And I think that's where the experience pay will elevate quite quickly in answering some of those questions.
That's interesting. We've asked that, but a part of the preparation for the keynote, we've asked people questions of like, is it actually doing anything? Have you spent you spend money on it and all that, and I think,
So we've got some benchmark data already, because we're started collecting behavior data now for users as based on their roles and ways of working, but also how they like to work with AI. And actually what we found is that there is at least 30% improvement for individuals that they believe AI is improving their lives of work. Not 30% improvement of productivity, but 30% are saying it's improving the ways of working using AI. And actually a very, 30% plus, a very small amount is actually saying, I'm not even touching it yet, all right, it's not improving. So I think it is improving. But we also see some service desks where they're utilizing virtual agents, and actually that's having a negative impact, because they're getting stuck on the agent, then they're having to still pick up the phone and speak to somebody. So it's just taking more time to try to get a problem. So I think there's still an awful long way to go, but I think overall AI tools is improving efficiencies.
I think, there's a parallel there with how it's gone in the last 20 years with ITIL, because you could probably say that a lot of the stuff that was written 20 years ago, it was right and applicable, but it takes a long time for it to really seep through to people, and I think where we have such speed of change, we need the right messaging to cut through. And if it doesn't, then we get more stuff to explain and deal with. So I think the faster we can get that, I agree. I don't think the adoption is what it could be, but that may be the number of factors that may have held that back, like the way it's it's evolved from an industry point of view. There's lots of different companies and organizations doing stuff, but nothing coming together. We have that with ITIL now to some extent. We probably just need it more with the experience industry as well. I don't know if you agree with that, or
I do, and I think the other thing on ITIL, because obviously we've now got the experience agenda in ITIL 5. I think that brings that level of experience into the operational kids that has to now be done. Whereas it wasn't there before. So I think the people that are wanting to go on the experience journey are either the C-suite driving down, or it's the small pockets of people that have an interested experience measure.
Yes.
ITIL 5 is going to really help standardize experience across organizations in a lot of persons.
That's certainly the intention. Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.